Creatine is famous for building muscle. But now, researchers are testing if it could boost our brain power. There's been a creatine craze in the US. Sales jumped 36% last year, bringing the total market to almost $500 million. I've been part of that wave too. I've been taking creatine for years, always for the gym, never once thinking about my brain. Until I came across studies hinting it might do more than help me build muscle. It might help me think. And that's what sent me down this rabbit hole. How did a basic gym supplement become the center of neuroscience research? And more importantly, what are scientists finding that we don't know yet?
Creatine.
The craze is creatine.
Scientists now think creatine isn't just for muscles, but your mind.
The effects of creatine on the brain started to really get my interest.
You've probably heard that creatine is the
most widely researched,
the most tested and effective sports supplement we have.
And that's true. We have thousands of studies on creatine. But in all that research, the basics often get buried, like, what even is creatine? Here's where people usually get it wrong. Creatine isn't just some powder you scoop into a shake. Your body makes it naturally. It literally depends on it. And you even pick some up from your diet, mostly meat and fish. So what's it actually doing? Creatine's main job is backing up ATP, the energy currency your cells use to power movement. The thing is, you only store enough ATP for a few seconds of movement at a time. And that's where creatine steps in. Picture it like this. Your body's like a smartphone with a battery so tiny it dies after one text. Pretty useless, right? Creatine is like the portable charger that comes to save the day, recharging the battery and keeping you running when you need it most. That's why supplementing with creatine works. You're not adding something foreign, it's just giving your body a bigger, faster charger than it could ever make on its own. The catch is, this system doesn't last forever. Creatine power runs out in about 10 seconds, roughly the length of a 100-meter sprint or one heavy squat attempt. Well, what happens after that? Your body doesn't rely on just one charger, it's got 3 different systems, each designed to keep you going at different speeds. And together, they're the reason you can go from a 10-second burst to a marathon without collapsing. We already met the first system, the ATP-CP burst, the 10-second sprint. But once that dies out, your body shifts gears. Now it's burning carbs, giving you a few minutes of power. Think an 800-meter run or a set of push-ups. And when even that fades, your marathon engine kicks in, the oxidative system. Slow, but efficient enough to keep you moving for hours on end. So what does any of this have to do with the brain? Well, the same energy systems that fuel your muscles also keep your brain running. And the brain is very greedy. Just 2% of your body weight, yet burning through 20% of your fuel at rest. In other words, fueling your brain's battery life is just as critical as fueling your muscles. And that got researchers wondering, if creatine gives athletes more gas in the tank, what would happen if they gave it to the brain? In 2000, researchers decided to test that idea in a pretty unusual way. They brought in 40 mice and 24 rats, gave half of them creatine, and then put them through something far less pleasant. They gave them essentially controlled concussions. Yes, bonked them on the head just to see how each group would respond. It sounds brutal, but it makes sense. If creatine fuels your body's hardest efforts, maybe it could protect the brain during its most demanding crisis, an injury. So they split them into groups. They tested everything from a single day of creatine to a few days, all the way up to a month. And that's where things shocked me. The rats on creatine for a month showed half the brain damage compared to the control group. Half. Even the shorter term groups saw big reductions. But my question was why? Why did creatine protect the brain? The answer showed up when they looked at ATP. 1 hour after the injury, the control group's ATP had tanked. The creatine group, still lower than baseline, but significantly more than the control. That's the real breakthrough here. It wasn't just less damage, it was why there was less damage. Creatine gave the brain more energy reserves when they needed it most. But does that actually mean anything for humans? Because if it does, it would change everything from how we prevent concussions in sports to regular people being resilient to accidents we can't predict. This is where things started shifting. That's why researchers today are putting creatine to the test in people's brains. And what they're finding is exciting, but not as straightforward as you might think.
What about brain health? What does creatine do for that?
So the studies are very preliminary, but they're kind of exciting.
And a lot of that buzz comes from new studies looking at cognition. Just a couple of years ago, researchers ran the largest trial on creatine and cognition to date, over 100 participants. The question was simple: could creatine actually make you think better? The answer was yes. They found a small but noticeable benefit. And to put that into perspective, the researchers explained it this way. If those same tests were IQ tests, it would equal about a 1 to 2.5 point boost in IQ, just from taking creatine. Not necessarily a miracle pill, but more than I expected. Zoom out even more, a 2023 meta-analysis looked strictly at memory. They pulled together 10 studies and found some evidence creatine helps, but plenty of those studies found no effect at all. And that's where it gets complicated. Another meta-analysis landed with the opposite conclusion: no overall link between creatine and cognition. Case closed, right? Well, not exactly. Because when the lead researcher, Terry McMorris, was asked about it, he admitted most of the studies he reviewed were using outdated tests. So maybe creatine didn't fail, but the way we've tested it did. Here's a quick challenge for you. I'm gonna flash some numbers on the screen. The challenge is you have to remember them and then repeat them backwards afterward. I'll show 6 numbers. Ready? Go. Got it? Okay, now what was that in reverse? If you said 590-368, nice job. This little game might feel simple, but it's actually one of the most common tests in creatine brain studies, something McMorris feels is outdated. So if the way we're measuring brain power is in question, no wonder the results on creatine are coming out mixed. And it's not just the test that might be holding back these studies. Dosage is all over the place. Some stick to 5 grams, others go up to 25 a day. No one can agree on the sweet spot. On top of that, most studies are pretty small, which makes it hard to know what actually applies to a larger population. And until researchers iron out those wrinkles, it's hard to say what creatine does to most people's brains. Which means for now, the choice is kind of personal. Me personally, I've taken creatine on and off for a couple years. It's cheap, it works, and I like the way it helps me recover. With the brain stuff, honestly, I've always seen it as a possible cool side effect more than the main thing. But you might look at it differently. If you're a sprinter, lifter, or even a basketball player, creatine's been recommended for athletes like you for decades. But what's most interesting to me is that there's early evidence suggesting creatine might help in conditions like Alzheimer's, ALS, or even depression, on top of what we mentioned earlier. The last category is important though. The science there is still extremely early. If that's the reason you're considering creatine, it's worth it to talk to a doctor first rather than some guy on YouTube. So what does this mean for most people? So for one, I know the health optimization side of the internet is foaming at the mouth of these studies, but it's always important to keep a level head when looking at new research. I mean, this might change how we look at brain health in the next 10 years, but right now it's still a maybe. Over 7 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's. Over 300 million people worldwide are dealing with depression. 1.6 million people get sport-related concussions every year. If we could help even a fraction of those people with an affordable supplement, that's a win in my book. So why are scientists suddenly more obsessed than ever with a supplement everybody thought was just for the gym? Because this story isn't finished yet. And every time we learn more, creatine gets a little less boring and a lot more fascinating.